Hello and welcome to episode 511 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, as always, joined by Evan Silva. We are entering week 18, final week of the NFL regular season. Evan, how's it going today?
It's going all right. We're heading into, we're heading for the NFL playoffs, and we're heading into week 18. Heading into the NFL, heading toward the NFL playoffs. Coming off, this is a strange morning to be doing NFL coverage because of all the stuff, because of what we all saw last night in the Bills-Bengals game, a game that ultimately was postponed. Damar Hamlin, while making a tackle, took a shot to the chest and wound up going into cardiac arrest on the field. Damar Hamlin, a guy that was a 6th-round pick out of Pittsburgh in 2021, and this year, and paid his dues on special teams, got drafted by one of the best teams in the NFL. 6th-round picks don't always make the team, and especially for really good teams, especially behind what at the time was the best safety tandem in the NFL, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. This year, Jordan Poyer has been in and out of the lineup. Micah Hyde went out really early. Damar Hamlin became a starter in a secondary that has played a ton of young players and still played really well on defense. And I think that from that standpoint, he was, an inspiration, overcoming the odds. And hopefully he, again, will be in position to be an inspiration because he went into cardiac arrest on the field. And it was the scariest moment that I've ever seen in an NFL game. The reports this morning, and we're recording this early on Tuesday, have been positive, all things considered. So we're hoping that things will keep looking up for Damar Hamlin.
Yeah. I mean, it's like literally, obviously, the worst thing you can possibly see when you're watching a game. And like, it definitely raises, I think, some level of guilt with us, that like these guys literally put their body, put their mind, and like even put their life at risk for our own entertainment. I remember the Mike Utley situation. If people are as old as us, they probably remember the Mike Utley situation back in 1991. I was 9 years old. I actually was watching that game live. It was insanely horrible. So yeah, not really sure what else to say or to do here. Obviously, we're thinking about Damar Hamlin and his family. We're going to go ahead and do the show here, but certainly thinking about Damar and his family. On today's show, we're going to go team by team through each NFC squad, talking through everything we saw, what it means going forward for week 18 and beyond. This podcast is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. I know I've talked about this a bunch, but man, the playoff best ball stuff on Underdog is just such a massive edge. There are so many dead teams being drafted every single day because they are not doing the optimal strategy. They're not giving themselves a chance to even win in the Super Bowl. They're not giving themselves a chance to advance out of round one. Other things, please listen. We do have rankings up, and those are important. There's rankings up on the site, but please listen to the podcast that Leone and Herzig did on strategy on Establish the Edge, and also the article that Herzig did on strategy for this. If you have not signed up for Underdog yet, promo code ETR when you sign up. We'll match your first deposit up to $100. Again, promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. All right, Arizona Cardinals. So, somewhat predictably, and Evan talked about this a bunch, when you ride James Conner for 266 out of 280 of the previous snaps, I mean, he's going to get dinged up, right? And James Conner did suffer a shin injury in this game. He's day-to-day. We'll see if he plays in a Week 18 meaningless game. The good thing that I saw from Arizona was like Trey McBride actually showed a sign of life. Trey McBride goes 778-1 on 10 targets. And this was a game started by David Blau and did not feature DeAndre Hopkins, but at least something positive for the former Mackey Award winner, Trey McBride, here to close out the season. Evan, what did you see out of the Cardinals game against the Falcons?
Yeah, and when it's late in the season and there's been so much personnel change in Arizona. I mean, they're on with their 4th quarterback. The previous week they were on their 3rd quarterback. It was Greg Dortch who got the ball a ton. This week it happened to be Trey McBride with David Blau at quarterback who got the ball a ton, and Greg Dortch really didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So the predictability of the results for the pass catchers in an offense quarterbacked by a 3rd, 4th string signal caller, they can be really volatile and they can be really, really hard to predict. And so that would be my main takeaway from this game. But at the same time, yeah, I'm glad that we saw Trey McBride do something in the box score. He's still a really young tight end. We know that rookie tight ends tend to struggle in their first seasons. But him showing the level of production that he was able to put up here, I think, was promising entering 2023. He'll be a guy that we're talking about in all likelihood. I mean, I don't think the Cardinals are going to go out and address tight end aggressively. We'll see what they do with Zach Ertz. But Trey McBride should be in position to take a step forward in 2023.
Atlanta Falcons, Tyler Algier ended up being kind of chalky in DFS, was certainly in play for cash, but he's still only playing around 50 to 55% of the snaps. And even in this game, Cordero Patterson stole 9 carries. Cordero Patterson got 8 targets, but still they're running the ball so much and running the ball so efficiently that Tyler Algier ended up being a pretty important part of late season DFS. And even if you had him in season long or best ball, Tyler Algier ended up being pretty important. Now, is he their future back of the future? I think there's some debate about that, but it's at least being very productive right now. What do you see out of Falcons, Evan?
The Falcons have so much else to work on and have shown that they can be extremely productive in the running game under Arthur Smith with Tyler Algier, Caleb Huntley. I don't want to take anything away from Cordero Patterson, but a 31-year-old journeyman kickoff returner. So my lean would be toward predicting that Atlanta will go into next season with Tyler Algier as their main back. But again, he is a 5th-round pick. The quarterback situation is going to continue to be big for Atlanta. They're not necessarily going to get, a super high draft pick. They did wind up with 6 wins, and they'll have an opportunity to get another one. But I think Desmond Ridder just did not show enough in his little late season audition for them to bypass any opportunity to go and get a quarterback in Marcus Mariota. We saw what that was. That experiment was, largely a failure. Desmond Ridder did, again, show a pretty good ability to get the ball to Drake London. I mean, Drake London tied for the team leading targets here, 5 for 47. He had 2 solid games before that. I think Drake London, we can agree, he's a player, but they don't have a quarterback yet.
Yeah, I mean, just keep taking shots at quarterback. I mean, it's just an absolute no-brainer. Most valuable thing in sports, is my opinion, is a good quarterback on a rookie contract. Carolina, I mean, really disappointing result here for Carolina. Massive game, everything to play for. NFC South, knock off Tom Brady, and Brady has his best game of the season by a wide margin. I mean, I've played Brady stacks so many times this year on DraftKings because I think it works well. He has so many attempts and full PPR and 100-yard bonuses. You can do the doubles so well. I finally gave up on it this past week, and he just goes completely nuts to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. We talked a lot about how Mike Evans was close to some huge games this year. He's been in the by Leone model consistently for the last month or so. He absolutely wrecked. So it's official, Evan. Tom Brady still has it in him to have these huge games like this. What do you see out of Carolina, though?
Well, Carolina came out hot in this game. I think, did they go up 14-0? Yeah, they were up 14-0 at one point, and the Bucs came back. Darnold made just enough mistakes. We saw the mistakes come back for Sam Darnold. That's been a problem for him since USC. But he still got the ball to DJ Moore. DJ Moore had another big game. He made an awesome throw in the left corner of the end zone to DJ Moore for his touchdown. DJ Moore finishes with 6-1, 17-1. That narrative that DJ Moore and Sam Darnold have like some on-field chemistry continued to shine through in several games to close out the season. A reminder for DJ Moore that he had a really tough season, but he's a really good, still young player, and Sam Darnold can get him the ball. It's just Sam Darnold has these turnover meltdown games, and that kind of contribute. And they could not run the ball against Tampa Bay either.
Yeah. No, I mean, the DJ Moore, Sam Darnold stuff is undoubtedly real to me. Like, I don't think that's a narrative at all. Like, that is 100% real to me, that connection. Chicago. I mean, the Fields rushing stuff, my God, 132 or more yards here. And we talked a bunch about the Detroit playing man. We talked about this on Friday. We talked about it on Sunday. And I guess that came to fruition because Fields just went nuts rushing again. He's now just 64 yards away from Lamar Jackson's record. However, Evan, from a real-life perspective, people are saying that's great. He only completed 7 passes in a game that they got absolutely crushed. I think that Fields can and will improve as a thrower. They need to get him more weapons, a better scheme, et cetera, et cetera. I would not be giving up on him at all as a thrower, but it's certainly concerning right now. Bears got crushed by our Lions. What do you see out of them?
Yeah, I mean, the passing game continues to be just non-functional in Chicago, and really didn't, it hasn't gotten better. I mean, he took 7 sacks on 28 dropbacks. At the same time, like, he's out there throwing to Byron Pringle. He's out there throwing to Equanimous St. Brown. Cole Kmet, I think, has shown that he can play, and I think he's going to be locked in as their starting tight end for 2023. N'Keal Harry, I mean, Ryan Griffin, like Dante Pettis. It's so bad in the pass catcher core, and that's going to be a major priority for the Bears, who have a ton of money and a ton of draft picks for next season. We need to talk about Justin Fields. Is not because he goes 10 for 132 on the ground. He's within like 50 or 60 yards.
Yeah, 64 yards. Yep. Of
Lamar Jackson's single season rushing record. But in this game, like, he was being stretched out on the sidelines. He took one. So he had like one scary fall on one of his legs. Are they going to let him go for this record, or are they going to not play him in the final game, or are they going to try to get him the record in the first half and then pull him? I mean, that's going to be something that we're kind of talking about entering Week 18.
Assuming that, he's not an injury report and he's healthy, I think that he'll play to get the record and play the whole game. I mean, they just need to get him more reps, I think. And I think they've been dead for a long time and played him. So, yeah. Dallas did not play very well against the Titans team on that Thursday night game that was laying down. I mean, Titans were like playing their JV team, completely laying down, and Dallas did not play that well. Still ended up winning the game by a couple of touchdowns. Zeke Elliott's pass game role, I mean, even with Tony Pollard out here, Zeke ran a season-high 25 routes, saw 0 targets. And he came into this week at 0.43 yards per route run. I mean, Zeke has turned into a total 0 in the pass game on most weeks. I will say this, for Week 18, Dallas still has an outside shot at getting the number 1 seed, still has a shot at getting the number 2 seed. So it's unlikely, but they do still have mathematically stuff to play for here. Anyways, what you see out of Dallas's Thursday night game against the Titans?
Well, Tony Pollard was inactive for the game, and Malik Davis wound up playing a ton.
Yep.
He wound up with 12 touches, and I think that if Tony Pollard is unable to go in Week 18, Malik Davis would continue to have a significant role. But it sounds to me like Tony Pollard is going to be back. CeeDee Lamb remained, really over the course of the season. He started off a little bit slow. It was scary for him early in the year. They lost Dak Prescott, all that. He had some rough games early on. He wound up being one of the most consistent receivers in all of fantasy, 11 catches for 100 yards in this one. He wound up having a nice season. I would say a full-on breakout year.
Yeah, really big game for Dalton Schultz here with the 2 touchdowns as well. And it's crazy, like, just watching the game. I mean, I'm no tape bro, and I know Zeke gives them a lot in pass protection and reliability and all that. Like, Malik Davis looked better than Zeke, period. And I mean, I hate to keep bagging on Zeke, but it is what it is. Lions. So we talked a bunch about DeAndre Swift, and Evan and I were both like, man, we get it on DeAndre Swift. We get the spot is amazing. Even with Justin Jackson out, I didn't trust DeAndre Swift to play a ton, and he didn't play a ton. He only got 33% of the running back carries, even with Justin Jackson out, and he only had a 13.8% target share. But when you're playing the Bears and you're so as good as DeAndre Swift is, you can still score 27.7 DraftKings points. I would absolutely love to see what DeAndre Swift could do in an actual Austin Eckler role, i.e. 50% of the running back carries and something closer to 15-20% of the total team targets. I would love to see them put him in that role. It's just this staff seems to have no desire to do it, even though he keeps having these huge games. What do you see out of the Lions' big win over the Bears?
So Jared Goff was very popular in DFS. And he got there. It's just he spread the ball around so much. I mean, he completed passes like 12 dudes. He spread the ball around so much that none of the pass catchers had big games. Even Amon-Ra, and he looked really good, but he had 5 targets. That's way below his normal expectation. That's because they were killing the Bears on the run or against the run or via the run, just like the Bills did the previous week. So, I mean, this is the way that the offenses are attacking the Bears right now. Jamal Williams was awesome in this game. I mean, he hit the longest run of his career in the second half, which went for 58. And He also took a 2-touchdown lead for the rushing touchdown lead in the NFL with Derrick Henry and Jalen Hurts, who are both going to play in Week 18 and both have massive ceilings. I mean, this thing is definitely not over for the rushing TD lead. It would have been really nice. Jamal Williams on their first drive got stuffed at the goal line. If he would have gotten 2, I'd been feeling a lot better. Craig Reynolds appeared early in the game, but I think he wound up playing only about 13 snaps. I don't know. I would say that he pretty much had the Justin Jackson role.
Yeah, he didn't touch the ball, but he did play 13 snaps.
But I don't know. We'll see for weeks 18. But, yeah, it was nice to see DeAndre Swift show that explosive ability.
Yeah, it's a great sweat, the Jamal Williams one, because I agree with you. The other part of the sweat is that the Lions play the Sunday night game, and if the Seahawks win at 4 o'clock, the Lions have nothing. The Lions have nothing to play for, which I don't know why the NFL did this, but the Lions will have nothing to play for if the Seahawks beat the Rams at 4 o'clock. But, 2 touchdowns is a lot to score in a game for Hurts, even for Henry. So
okay. Well, Derrick Henry's playing the Jaguars. And the Eagles they're going to have everything to play for. So you got any wood around you, man? Like, can you hit the wood? I'll hit it for you.
Let's go to the Packers. I mean, really good performance by the Packers, who have been rising over the Vikings, 41-17 win. I thought Aaron Jones looked really good, but they actually didn't need him or really anyone very much. Defense was absolutely dominant. Special teams was absolutely dominant in this game. And now the Packers have put themselves in a position where if they win on Sunday night against the Lions, they're in. That's it. They're in the playoffs, which is amazing considering where the Packers were at one point earlier this season. What you see out of their domination of the Vikings, and they held Justin Jefferson to 1 catch, which we can get to in a second.
Yeah. Aaron Jones, although I think he is clearly well short of 100% right now, he's so freaking good that he can still be productive as a limited, with limitations. Another guy who had limitation, I think our analysis was on point with Christian Watson. Look, we get a lot wrong. We do sometimes get stuff right. And, shy away from Christian Watson was, a pretty good call, all things considered, even in a great matchup like this. Aaron Rodgers wound up not getting there, not necessarily because he played poorly. He was fine. But as you mentioned, I mean, they scored, 2 defense special teams touchdowns. They made other big plays on defense and special teams. And so they weren't pushed really whatsoever. I mean, late in the fourth quarter, this game was 41-3.
Yeah. Absolute laugher. Let's go to the Rams. They just got trucked by the Chargers, but Cam Akers, man, dude continues to play well and maybe making a role for himself going forward after it looked like I would have thought at one point, I thought Cam Akers was just gonna be done in the NFL. Like the Rams didn't want him. They had benched him for these dust balls.
Coming off a torn Achilles.
Coming out. Yeah. He easily could have done in the NFL. And now he's back to playing really well again. Other than that, I didn't really have many other takeaways from a bad Rams performance against the Chargers. Anything for you on the Rams?
Nope.
Minnesota. Kirk Cousins has these games. He hasn't had that many of them lately, but he has these games where he just completely implodes. But really, the entire team played poorly. The Justin Jefferson thing from a fantasy perspective, though, man, one thing that's weird about best ball is you want to have the best players all year, but then you want the worst possible players in the final because Justin Jefferson was 40-50% owned. Everybody had him in the best ball final. And so it was huge leverage to not have him and have him fail here. 1 catch, though, did not seem like it was even in the range of outcomes on 5 targets. Of course, Jair Alexander is going to go ahead and take credit for this. What did you see out of the Vikings implosion against the Packers?
Yeah, well, we talked about Jair Alexander calling Justin Jefferson's Week 1 game against the Packers where he went, I don't know, did he have almost 200 yards?
Yeah.
He called it a fluke. And then Jair Alexander walked the walk, or he talked the talk, and then he walked the walk because he covered Jair Alexander covered Justin Jefferson on 21 of his 31 routes, and Justin Jefferson on those managed 1 catch for 15 yards. They also did, and on the routes and the snaps where Justin Jefferson was not covered by Jair Alexander, the Packers made sure that Justin Jefferson was not going to hurt him. So, you remember we had that decision, Justin Jefferson versus Christian McCaffrey on Sunday morning, and it seemed very, very close to the time, and it did not end up close whatsoever. Even in a game where the Vikings were trailing from the jump, Justin Jefferson could not get anything going.
Yeah, I'm going to talk more about that CMC versus JJF thing on the solo pod, or if people are interested in a bit more of a deep dive there. By the way, Vikings they're the number 3 seed right now. They can get to the number 2 seed in week 18, but it's unclear to me, like right now at least, how motivated they are to do that, the 2 versus the 3 seed. We'll see. Go to New Orleans, another big Taysom game here. And kind of the thesis of Taysom is you can play him at tight end. He can get a bunch of carries. He played 19 quarterback snaps. That's a season high in this game against the Eagles. 14 carries, season high. 40% of the carries went to Taysom Hill. Big story, though, was the defense, which just absolutely thrashed Gardner Minshew. I mean, they were all over him. We can talk more about the Lane Johnson situation when we get to the Eagles here in a second, but really good performance from the Saints defense. What do you see out of their win over the Eagles?
Yeah, Marshawn Lattimore had a monster game for them, not just his pick 6, but he did a great job on the Eagles receivers. The Eagles receivers both wound up having productive days. But Marshawn Lattimore, when he was out there, he made a huge difference. He hadn't played in 10 games. So I remember we had a question in chat, and someone was like, "Hey, does it matter if Marshawn Lattimore is back?" I would have been like, and we didn't respond to it, but I would have said no. Hasn't played in 10 games. He's been kind of inconsistent throughout his career. He balled out. So credit where that's due. Alvin Kamara 1 catch. The prediction from Underhill was on point that he wasn't going to have a huge role in the passing game. And then Rashid Shaheed is just like, I remember the Ty Fluke stuff from back in the day on your show with Al and Peter. And I mean, I'm not saying that Rashid Shaheed is the next Tyreek Hill, but this dude with, almost no volume. I mean, 6 targets today was his most of the year. This guy keeps getting there. I mean, on with extreme efficiency.
I don't want to be a tape bro at all, but Rashid Shaheed, when you watch him, looks like the dude can play. So, yeah, I mean, he certainly looks the part. Maybe they found something there.
Well, you got to be a little bit of a tape bro.
Giants, speaking of tape bros, is there more fun than watching Danny Dimes and finishes the fantasy season as the QB?
Yes, there is more fun than watching Danny Dimes.
Finishes the fantasy season as the QB9. Also led me to a 50K score in the 333 single entry best ball. Shout out to me, and led the Giants to the playoffs. They're now locked into the number 6 seed. I am tired of these people disparaging Daniel Dimes from both a fantasy and real life perspective. I know I once made the joke, if you need 16, Daniel Jones will get you 16. If you need 25, Daniel Jones will get you 16. What if he hauls off and gets you 36, baby? So shout out to him, and shout out to the Giants. Again, I know I've said it on here before. It's bad for me financially because I have a bunch of Coach of the Year stuff. I don't have Daboll, and I think Daboll deserves it, though. What a year for the Giants and Daniel Jones. What you see out of their easy win over the Colts.
Yeah, I didn't know if they had an offensive effort like this in them, especially against a pretty respectable defense. I mean, the Colts have not been by any means a poor defense. I think you could say they've been top half of the league. Yeah, I would confidently say that over the course of the season. They did not have Yannick Ngakoue in this game. He's their sack leader. But, I mean, they still had pretty much everyone else, and the Giants just pulled up on them offensively. Isaiah Hodgins continues to give them a lot of good snaps as an outside receiver, and Richie James has been an awesome pickup for them as a slot receiver. They have a way of manufacturing offense, and I think for that, Brian Daboll and their OC Mike Kafka deserve a ton of credit. I'm with you. Brian Daboll, I think, should absolutely win Coach of the Year.
Eagles, as we move to other Coach of the Year candidate, not looking as great now that the Eagles have lost 2 straight without Jalen Hurts. I guess maybe that's good for Jalen Hurts MVP talk, although I haven't heard a lot about that lately because he's missed 2 straight games. But yeah, I mean, somewhat scary here that the Saints defense was able to dominate the Eagles so hard. Again, no Jalen Hurts, no Lane Johnson. Eagles only get 53 plays off. But I think maybe some level of concern here, but are expected to get Jalen Hurts back for week 18. And again, the Eagles need to win week 18 to get that first round bye. What do you see out of their game against the Saints?
Minshew wasn't well, his numbers weren't horrible in this game, but it was a big step back for him. And, trying to think back, like, where did I go wrong? Because I thought that he would have a better game than this. I guess maybe I just didn't take the Lane Johnson on and off splits seriously enough. The driver of why he wound up having a good day in the box score, or not even a good day, but like a respectable looking day in the box score, was just the 78-yard touchdown to AJ Brown.
Yeah.
So they're going to bring back Jalen Hurts in Week 18. It seemed like he was close this past week, and he's definitely going to be starting in the finale.
Just want to give another shout out to Devonta Smith. I know I've talked about him all year, but like he turned out to be a legit league winner because he just crushed the last like 4 or 5 games, and coming from that like 8th or 9th round pick. I mean, he was so incredibly valuable. Devonta Smith's such a good player. I don't like to let him get overshadowed by AJ Brown, even though I love them both. San Francisco. So the Eagles lost, which meant that San Francisco was in play for the number 1 seed. Now, they didn't play great at Las Vegas. They got shredded a bit by Stidham, which was shocking. But the CMC usage was awesome here. 19 of 22 running back carries, 25.7% target share. I mean, the Raiders just could not tackle CMC in this game. What do you see out of the Niners' overtime win over the Raiders?
Yeah, CMC was unbelievable. I think this had to be his highest snap share so far as a 49er, I believe.
Yeah, 57 of 67 snaps here for CMC.
It was also a career high for Brandon Ayuk in terms of receiving yards. 49ers, I was shocked by their ineptness on defense in this particular game, but their offense continues to chug away, and they should be getting Deebo Samuel back in Week 18.
Yeah, and 49ers with a win in Week 18 and an Eagles loss, they will get the bye. Those 2 games are at the same time, so maybe a bit of scoreboard watching there. We'll talk about that more as the week moves on. Seattle. I thought the game plan and kind of the game went as expected, right? Like, you're not really going to try to throw against the league's best pass defense in the Jets with Tyler Lockett hurt. You're going to go really run heavy, and that's what happened. Kenneth Walker got a ton of usage here. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett both fail. Seattle is still live for the playoffs, but they're going to need some help. They're going to need to beat the Rams and then have the Packers and then have the Lions beat the Packers in order to get in. What do you see out of the Seahawks in Week 17?
I just want to give out a shout out to Joe Latore, who brought up on Sunday morning the idea of playing Colby Parkinson with Will Dissly out. And Colby Parkinson winds up going 5 for 36 and a touchdown on 7 targets, leads the team.
Go to Tampa. I actually was like the only one on earth that ended up playing Cade Otton in cash on Sunday. And I was actually kind of happy about it. He ran 41 routes in this game at 3,200 with Tom Brady as his quarterback, got 6 targets. Now, Cade Otton has been getting this usage last few weeks and has not been productive, which is a concern. 217-0 for Cade Otton. So, yeah, that was frustrating, but Cade Otton's usage is awesome. And, yeah, the Mike Evans regression I already talked about hit in a monster way. Tom Brady still has it in him, at least. Evan, what do you see out of the Bucs?
Yeah, I mean, they just stormed right back. I mean, this was like the offensive performance we've been waiting all season for Tampa Bay to have. They wind up having it against a Carolina defense that just was not the same in the secondary without J.C. Horn out there playing. Josh Norman, C.J. Henderson got absolutely just took to school by Mike Evans. The Buccaneers entered this game all season. All season, 2 completions of 30-plus yards. They had 3 completions of 30-plus yards in this game, all to Mike Evans. And with Cade Otton, like, and I don't think you're kicking yourself about that, but I don't think anybody should be kicking themselves about that. It was a good play that really just had a poor result.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy. Like, that regression hitting all at once thing has happened at least twice this year. The Joe Mixon was like the poster boy for regression. He went off for that 5 touchdown game. And then when all the chips are down in fantasy championship week, Mike Evans' frustrating year, all the regression hits at once in one game. Last one we're going to do here today is the Washington football team. I mean, I don't really know. I didn't really like get my head around it because I didn't care that much because it wasn't that great of a spot. And like the real life stuff doesn't I don't get into it that much. I just don't understand why they went away from Taylor Heineke for Carson Wentz. But, it's easy to say that now, obviously. Carson Wentz, man, 143 yards on 28 attempts, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. There's no way that Carson Wentz gave them a better chance to win this game than Taylor Heineke. I know, again, that's easy to say now. But anyways, Carson Wentz, man, like he could be out of the league soon. That's how bad this guy has been. What you see at a Washington football team who is now officially eliminated from the playoffs after losing to a pretty dead Browns team at home.
And he just crumbles under pressure. I mean, that's been the story with Carson Wentz now, I think, year over year, is that he gets into high pressure spots and he crumbles. Yeah, I mean, I sort of understood it because in theory he gives the Commanders more upside than Taylor Heineke. But I'm with you. I mean, and there have been reports come out of players saying that players on the other team that know players on the Commanders saying that the Commanders players were kind of frustrated that they went back to Carson Wentz. I mean, Carson Wentz isn't a leader and he isn't productive on the football field. And for those reasons, I'm with you. I mean, I'm not sure how much longer. He'll probably be on an NFL roster, I guess, but he's not an NFL starter. You can't rely on him as an NFL starter.
He's not. He's going to have to prove himself as a backup if he's going to stay in the league, I think.
Yeah. And he's not a very good backup either because he's a jerk. So, and I want to say the Brian Robinson stuff, we talked about his potential in the passing game. It just wasn't there at all. Jonathan Williams took that role. Yeah,
the thesis of the Brian Robinson play to me and was what happened. He was 5,200 on DraftKings. He got 18 first half carries and 24 carries in the game. So I was fine. I played Brian Robinson and I was actually fine with it. I mean, 24 carries at 5,200. It could have been more if they didn't get behind in the second half.
He's just kind of a plotter.
Yeah, exactly. He's just not that good. By the way, Washington is now officially eliminated from the playoffs. And I'm always careful with these teams in week 18. We'll talk about it more. Teams that are just eliminated from the playoffs, you can see weird things in week 18 that we hadn't seen before. All right. That is going to do it for this NFC Team by Team podcast. We'll be back later tonight with the AFC Team by Team podcast. For Evan, for Bruce Luke, I'm Adam. Good luck, everybody.